You're on.
Good evening. I'm Jerry McIntosh, and this is Our Voices, the People's Media. Tonight, we're going to talk with some of the surrogates for Stanley. Um, am I saying, what is his
That's
first name?
right, Dr. Stanley Campbell. Mr. Stanley Campbell.
Stanley Campbell. I see him. He done joined us. But, but first, we'll go to our host, Mr. Bill Snow, who is the author of the great book From the Project to the Boardroom. We had Derek Scott, who is head of the Democrat Party here, Mr. Vernon Watson, who is the owner and proprietor of the WBQP TV. Our sister Jill Daggs, who is also with the Democrat Party and treasurer and so many other things that she do with the Democrat Party. And I'm gonna let Derek introduce the rest of the people. I guess.
Okay, good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining us. As you see, our panel is absolutely full tonight, and we are excited for that. We are pleased. If you have not, I know that all of you
Derek, before you introduce, Sherry Moran is with us tonight too.
Oh yeah.
I'm out down there.
Yeah, down there.
As you tune in with us every week, you know that we are in election season, and we at Our Voices try our best to make sure that you are informed with candidates here locally as well as at the state level. And this time we are absolutely excited and fortunate to have with us Mr. Stanley Campbell. For those of you all who are not familiar with Mr. Stanley Campbell, he is running to represent the great state of Florida as our next senator to defeat and replace Rick Scott and give us a voice here in Washington for the state of Florida, a voice for those of us who feel marginalized and underserved, and represent us in its entirety. So we are happy to have Mr. Stanley Campbell along with quite a few of his campaign team members, and they're going to share a little bit about his campaign, what we should have in store, and what the next steps are looking like. So I am pleased to have him, and I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Campbell. You're muted.
Well, thank you, and thank you all for viewing tonight. I'm looking forward to a very, very rigorous conversation. We are so glad to be here. We were actually in the area last week, or this past week, and we know we're home when we're in that Panhandle region.
Thank you for that. And we are, I think those of us who are fortunate enough to have some time, we spent some time with you over in Santa Rosa County. We've been blessed to have you here in Escambia County just a few months ago. So a lot of people still aren't familiar. The word is getting out. So if Mr. Campbell, if you could just give us your background, share with us who you are, your connection to Pensacola, because those of us on the panel are familiar with your connection, but our viewers may not be. So if you could share with us that information, and then why you're running to be the next great senator for the state of Florida.
All right. Well, great. And thank you all for having me. Well, first of all, I'm actually hopefully going to be the only real Floridian or pure Floridian. I was born and raised in Miami, Florida, actually born in Miami Beach. As a first generation to be able to be born there. I went to elementary school in Liberty City, and then from there, and I was introduced the other night as being from the hood, and I like to say that I'm not from the hood. I was 4 blocks away from the projects, but so I was hood adjacent. But that being the case, I was actually bused to Miami Beach for high school. And then I left Miami Beach High with my 2.6 grade point average and headed straight to Florida A&M University, where I actually studied physics and mathematics, believe it or not. finished as an honor student, and took a job at Amoco Production as a geophysicist. But while I was at Florida A&M University, I actually worked on the data reduction and error analysis package for the Voyager 2. And anybody who might know Voyager 2, it left the solar system about 5 or 6 years ago, and it's still sending back data. One of our only human-built assets to actually go past Uranus and further on. But that being the case, I got to, when I graduated, I went to Amoco Production as a geophysicist. And in New Orleans, I decided I wanted to join the Navy to see the world. I wanted to fly airplanes. I wanted to be an astronaut. And I actually signed up, took the test, and signed up for the Naval Aviation training to be a pilot in the United States Navy. And I was successful at that. And I got an opportunity to be a command pilot on the entire military's most advanced aircraft, the TACAMO bird, which at that time we were 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. An airplane had to be airborne. And I was a command pilot at the ripe old age of about 24 years old. Today, you have to be almost in the military by 24 years to be able to command that mission. But it's a very strategic mission. It is one that we do communications to all of our submarines, and it puts you into the National Command Authority. And if you, just to put that in perspective, we don't have a person on the Armed Services Committee, a Democrat or Republican. The head Democrat is from Virginia. He's a business person, and the head Republican is from Florida. And I can tell you, neither one of them have any experience in the strategic or tactical environment, yet they lead all of the funding and benefits for our services and how we then operate our military around the world. That being said, I can tell you that I'm running because of the things that have happened in Florida since I left, since I joined the military, since I actually have worked in the defense and intelligence space, and having seen the ills of the world. When I moved back to Florida 4.5 years ago, I moved back because my brother called me and he asked me about, I need something, we need some help, because we have a governor who is giving away 21% of our vaccinations to Publix. And if any of you all are from the neighborhoods that like the ones that I grew up in Miami, or traveled to in Tallahassee or Hillsborough County or Leon County, I can tell you that we didn't have a Publix in our neighborhood. And then when you double down and the hospital requires you to have a Twitter account, I can tell you that my parents didn't have Twitter accounts. My brothers barely had Twitter accounts. And so that did not give us an opportunity or a fair opportunity to get vaccinated, and it showed up. 84% vaccination rate in Aventura, which is a wealthy area, and then 3.5 miles away in Opelika, 8.4% vaccination rates. And I couldn't believe that. And so the issue for me is that brought me back to Florida. It brought me out of the intelligence space, and it put me in place, because one of the things that I've done over the last probably 12 years is I focused my company toward healthcare. And with healthcare, we operate at every point of sale pharmacy in the United States and 5 of the 9 incorporated territories. And what that means is we have potentially the largest healthcare network in the country, and we have 308 million Americans in that system. And all we do all day long is stop Medicare and Medicaid fraud. And I can tell you, those of you who live in Florida, who've worked in Florida, who understand the governors that we've had, we know that the one that is now our senator actually had the largest Medicaid and Medicare fraud in the history of the government. And so for me, I think that that becomes very important as we prepare ourselves. Now, a couple of other things for that I'm focused on is I've got a strong plan, maybe the most advanced plan presented as it relates to how we will lower our insurance rates. So in that particular case, in the intelligence space, I worked on this thing called the National Critical Infrastructure Protection Program. Now, the part that I worked on, you would know as the TSA passenger screening system, but your lights at your house sits in the National Critical Infrastructure. Your water sits in the National Critical Infrastructure. And there's 16 elements. My proposal is that we put insurance into that. Because if a storm hitting our eastern shore is off by a few degrees, it's going to hit Alabama. A few more degrees, it's going to hit Mississippi. A few more degrees, it's going to hit Louisiana. And if it's hitting Louisiana, that means it most likely has already hit Texas. That becomes a critical point of contention because we now have a shared responsibility and we have a shared risk. And if we can convince those senators, those congressmen, and those governors to help us to put the insurance into the national critical infrastructure, it will then be the 17th element to get into that environment, which means that that shared responsibility will have all of our insurance lowered. And since in Florida, we have the highest insurance rate of anybody in the country, we would see about a 29% reduction. California, because they have fires, would see about a 28%. Texas, about a 26%. Mississippi, about a 22%. But that becomes the leveling of the playing field, and that because the government then becomes the first payer, then our insurance will lower by about 30%. Because I can tell you, as a sailor, when I got my benefits to buy a house, they would be very, very badly positioned if I could buy the house, but I couldn't afford to keep the house. So that becomes one of those things that are very important to me and to the work that I expect to do in the United States Senate.
So let me ask you this: we know that the insurance in the last couple of years have doubled. I know from my own insurance that it is extremely high now, and even for our nonprofit organization, the building that we own, our insurance went up $3,000 more than it was last year, and so the insurance is killing us. And if you got a mortgage, we know that if you got a mortgage and you don't have insurance, there's a possibility you might get foreclosed on.
You will not have that mortgage without insurance because they cannot have their risk owned by you. So what winds up happening is those of you who are property owners, and that property also accounts for your car. The one thing we cannot change is the beautiful beaches that we have in Florida and our specific position on Earth. What we could have done years ago, and we taken the environment seriously, we could have changed the trajectory. Now it's a bit too late for us in our lifetime. So what we've got to do is we've got to be able to share that risk, because this year alone, we're expected to have 5 major hurricanes. 5 major hurricanes. That is, no insurance company is going to bring itself into that level of risk. There's not enough money to bring them there. So no matter what the governor does or says or avoids or tries to bribe them in, which he did before, we will have that problem. So until the federal government becomes the first payer, and believe it or not, it's not going to cost us a lot of money, because when the hurricanes come, FEMA shows up. The Department of Health and Human Services, they show up. The state government shows up. And in fact, in this past hurricane, the state put about $900 million into a kitty that we could actually get the $10,000 per household after the fact. And then they just put another $200 million because they ran out of money after the fact. And that doesn't affect your insurance rates, and it doesn't affect everybody. If we go into the critical infrastructure protection program, then all of us will be covered, and everybody in every state would also have the same coverage. That's why we'll lower our rates about 29%. It is catastrophic if we continue in this rates, because at the end of the day, we'll only have wealthy people owning property, of which they will most likely in 5 years be self-insured.
Right. Jill, did you?
So I think our program, I know our program, when we share the risk, and we've seen it already, it is not like a new program. When we look at flood insurance, as poorly as it may be run, even flood insurance would be enhanced by this type of program. Because once you've got the critical infrastructure in place, then throwing flood insurance in there and as a we'll call it a removal of that program will actually get us in positioned properly. Because if the federal government is the first payer, then the rates will become normalized.
Go ahead, Jill.
So it's good to see you again. Welcome back.
Well, great seeing you.
I have a question that maybe some of our audience might want to know, but I definitely want to know because I've heard you tell that that detail that we need. And so we're all like, yes, come on, let's get our insurance rates to lower, do whatever we can. But how do you see yourself as senator working with our governor and the legislator to make that happen? Because right now they pass the laws, they pass the bills, they're in control of that. So although you have a phenomenal idea, not even an idea, you have an action plan that would work, how do you get that implemented through the governor and his legislation the way it is today?
That's a great question. So the first thing we got to do in Washington is we've got to lower the noise level. Right now, we have people yelling at each other. And the reason we have that, I hate to say it, is because if you don't know, if you don't have a solution, then you just yell at each other. And that's really where we are. I can tell you that I've worked with each one of the senators in that environment but I'll give you one real hard example, the Comprehensive Addiction and Recovery Act. So that is the act that was put into place, bipartisan put into place, that it was Senator Cassidy, a very staunch conservative Republican, but he's Dr. Cassidy, and his office is joined by his wife in Louisiana. And though there's not 5 things that I would agree with as it relates to economic development for the country, what I did agree with him on was the fact that we could actually get the opioid addiction rate. We had to do something. And then when you bring another senator from the Democratic Party and you get them together and you talk about those things that are affecting our cities, they have a common interest. And so when we already have the common interest. We're going to get 5 storms within the next 4 months. They have a common interest. What we've got to do is to make sure that they understand that they have to deal with their people, those people that they absolutely care for, and that it is that will get us past somebody avoiding receiving monies from the federal government. Because I can tell you, when FEMA shows up, they are going to show up whether DeSantis wants them or not. When Health and Human Services shows up, they're going to show up whether DeSantis wants them or not. And I don't think that he is that heartless to actually be able to fight against that. And it really doesn't matter, because those senators will actually take care of it, because they'll be joined by the ones in California. They'll be joined by the senators in Iowa who have ice storms. They'll be joined by the ones on the eastern coast going from Georgia to South Carolina to North Carolina to Virginia to New Jersey to New York, all the way up, because we all have that shared responsibility, and that's really the way we'll do it. And if we then get that done, we also work the Support Act, and that's for insurance for veterans, for homeless veterans and the like. And I can assure you, they found a common interest. If we look at things that we have in common, where the solutions are very much in front of our face, that's what we'll wind up doing. And hopefully, we will now lower the noise, lower the leveling, because they'll be getting things done.
So let me ask you, you know, climate change is a major issue in the country. The kind of money that we are spending on hurricanes and the many events that's taking place as far as tornadoes and all of that. What is your thoughts on this climate change, and do you think that we are wasting money by not acting on climate change? I know Joe Biden puts some 300, maybe 400 million dollars. I think I'm not totally sure, but I know he put quite a bit of money into it. But that's just a drop in the bucket. Is what's needed.
Well, I can tell you, I go back 45 years ago when I made my very first mission flight, an Atacama mission. I landed in Iceland, and it was snow, it was icebergs, it was ice, everything. And I landed there for 3 years. About every month, a month and a half, I was going to Iceland. In one generation, 30 years later, my wife and I went back to Keflavik for, our 30th anniversary. Everything going from ice now, everything is green. Everything is green. And so you have an anomaly going to an iceberg where you got a waterfall. That becomes in one generation. Now, where did that water go? Well, I can tell you, when you get the slightest rain in Florida, in Miami, you're going to get a flood. And believe me, that our borders are susceptible worse than any other state to floods. And I would not, take out Puerto Rico and all the rest, but as a contiguous states, we are more susceptible. We are, and it shows up in our insurance rates, because it is that they don't want to insure, because they know they're going to have problems with that. So for me, I'm all in with the electronic changing in moving from fossil fuels in cars to electric vehicles. I think that will extend to electric tractors. And I think that the speed and dexterity of artificial intelligence will even make it even faster. Those become the kinds of things that we have to do, because we are at a critical point as it relates to our environment. And we've got to act now, because at the end of the day, our neighborhoods get affected faster and most. Our neighborhoods get affected in the most significant way, because we have the least amount of tools to defend against floods or hurricanes or anything else.
You're so true. As a matter of fact, we have been talking about that we are more vulnerable than just about anyone when it comes to that, because many times we don't have the financial wherewithal to get out the way of some of these storms that's coming. And sometimes it's just a matter of the storm come up so fast, especially with tornadoes, that it leaves us even more vulnerable to the incidents of these storms that are much bigger and much faster and more destructive.
That is exactly the point. We just saw what happened in Tallahassee. They were almost devastated. I mean, in moving over to see you guys the other day, going through Tallahassee, I could see, 300-year, 200-year-old trees that were knocked down as if they were toothpicks. And those are the kinds of things that have to bring pause to anybody. There is no more argument about the science of global warming. Now we have to do some things to stop the rate of increase and to actually look at ways that we can take some of these emissions out of the atmosphere. And that's the science that we've got to be able to start investing in, along with the transition from fossil fuels at the level and rate that we're using them right now.
Go ahead, Cheryl.
Okay, Mr. Campbell, as senator, what are the top 3 issues that are within your control that you would make your first priorities?
Well, I just went through one with insurance because realistically, if you can afford a house and you can't afford to keep the house, that is pretty much, that's so critical to me because it is the first step at generational wealth, at us gaining our position in this society. I can also tell you that healthcare is very high on the list. It is absolutely crazy that we would have 700,000 people because we have 2 governors, including the former one that I'm running against, who turned down the Medicaid expansion because that cost us 700,000. Now we have the current governor that's about to put 300,000 more people off, anywhere from 300 to 350,000 more people off of Medicaid. And that becomes 1 million to 1.1 million by the time the next governor is in place. So that's one of the top things. So whether he moves or not, we're going to basically put monies in place to expand the Affordable Care Act, or what we know as Obamacare, because what Obamacare is a commercial insurance. However, we have under that commercial insurance ways that the federal government can actually pay 100% of a person's payments into the Affordable Care Act. So if we can't get you on the Medicaid, which is where it should be, where poor people should be covered, then we will get you under the Affordable Care Act, where the federal government will pay the full amount. That is not the most efficient way, but is a great insurance because it has those minimums that will keep people out of the emergency room. And that becomes, I would call that my second priority. One of the third priorities, I would say there's about 3/3. But if we talk about, while we're on the healthcare, veterans, health and homeless veterans, I've been working that for probably 10 years now. When we started 8 to 10 years ago, we had 214 veterans, 214,000 veterans per night. Every night were homeless. That would be a veteran or a veteran's family. Now we're down to 38,000. 38,000 veterans is still way too many, but that's enough that we should be able to give veterans, homeless veterans, the help and assistance, both in medical assistance, because many of them are mentally ill, and then the home and housing assistance, because if we can get them in programs that get them the health care that they need, put them in housing that they need, then we can actually keep them out of jail and keep them off of the streets. Because I can tell you, as a veteran myself, and I'm a family of veterans, my 2 older brothers were veterans as well, I can tell you that the things that you see in war and battle will change you, period. And some of us are more apt to changing. But when we have a service that can get you in service, in battle, and you be out on the streets in almost less than 30 days. See, that wasn't what we had in the past. In the past, you didn't see as much battle as we see now, and the transition out of the service was much longer. And so we don't even have a time for these soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and guardsmen to decompress, to actually learn how to re-engage with society. And it shows up every place. It shows up in homelessness. It shows up in veterans suicide. And in the state of Florida, we have one of the best veterans healthcare systems of all states. The problem, though, is if that veteran has to sit home for 60 days before they get an appointment, we may as well have none. And that shows up in our nation's, 22 to 25 soldiers, sailor, airmen, Marines, or guardsmen who kill themselves every day. These are deaths that could be avoided, and these are productive citizens that we know that they have the skill sets that just need to be reconverted. We need to reintegrate them into our societies, and we need to get them jobs and get them back on board. We can do that because we're down to 38,000, and that's 38,000 too many. And believe me, I can go on and on and on, but I can tell you, we have plans. I've sat home looking and yelling at the TV for way too long. But I would like to add one other thing. The thing that happens in the state of Florida as it relates to abortion. Now, many of us understand that a woman should have the rights that my wife had when she had an abortion. And I'll give you the storyline. She was pregnant with twins. She had an ectopic pregnancy, which means that the second twin went into the tube and did not get into its right position. That tube ruptured. And had she been in the state of Florida, she would most likely have died, and my son who was born would have died as well, because they would not have been able to abort the child that was in her tubes. When you can sit in a legislative room or an executive legislator's room and make those decisions that should be between that woman and her doctor. And in the case of my wife, she had already ruptured. So that woman, her doctor, and me, that is absolutely draconian. We should not position a person to die. That should be the position of that woman and her doctor, and that the decisions made by them should be sacrosanct. That should be the law of the land. Now, I'm not going to get into the politics of that, but I can tell you it is the politics that they've now played to get us to where none of our daughters, our wives or our mothers have the position that their moms had with the way the Florida state law has been set. And so for Florida, we're going to fix that with this election, but they're going to come right back. We have to fix this as a federal issue, because it is the federal government for which we had our rights before, and now the Supreme Court has taken those rights from these most deserving women. And I know that's 4, but I got 4 more. We can keep going, but I'll give you back the floor. You can ask some more questions.
Well, I think, going along that lines, on the veins of what you were just talking about, you kind of touched on, you elaborated on sounds like your position on what we know to be Amendment 4, which is women's reproductive health care. We do have a total of 6 amendments on the ballot facing Floridians this November. We just talked about your stance on Amendment 4. Amendment 3, which is focused on legalizing recreational marijuana usage, and the amendment, I believe it's 1 for the school board elections partisan. On the other 2 specifically that I just referenced, can you please share a little bit about what your positions are on those?
So let's start with 1. Let's start with the school board. So what I've seen, having gone across the state, is some very, very bad things associated with what's been manufactured by the legislature as it relates to schools. So the first thing is that you get an $8,000 voucher, you get an $8,000 voucher. So the public school system is getting that accounting, and the private school, you can just apply for the voucher. What they did was they left out the rules and responsibilities associated with that voucher, and they just gave you the voucher. So the voucher says that the kid comes over to your school, you get the money. That means that kid is not in the public school system. These are public school systems that were programmed and presented as it relates to the volume of children in the school system. Now those children are not there. Virtually every major school system in the state of Florida is going to lose schools, and they'll range from 4 to some of them with 10 schools that will actually be closed down. What I've been telling folks locally as I move throughout the state is get a church or some institution in your neighborhood to apply to get the school once it closes. Because once that school closes, the county will be able to do whatever with that property they choose. So if we ask for the school first. Now, the Amendment 1 is not about the schools themselves. It is more aligned with the value proposition of let's say how the school is administered. And so if you, I tell you what, ask me the question again as it relates to Amendment 1. Define the Amendment 1, and then I'll get you to the right hand, to the answer.
Yeah, so as is stated on the, as we understand it, the ballot summaries talks about proposing amendments to the state constitution to require members of a district school board to be elected in a partisan election. Rather than a nonpartisan election.
Yeah. So for me, I don't think school boards should be partisan. And the reason I think that that's the case is because school boards are made up of largely of people who are interested in the schools, teachers, people who are interested in the schools with parents, people who are interested in the schools, regulators. And as such, when we look at making that a partisan issue, then everything in the cause of what happens in the school districts also becomes partisan. We should not make children or veterans part of a partisan environment to where we cannot move toward getting answers. I can tell you it winds up being partisan anyway. At the end of the day, when you look at how people vote, how they act, how they recreate, and all the rest, we show up with the partisan nature. But I can tell you, the last places that we should be partisan is in the school board as it relates to that vote. I can tell you in the regions where you guys are, I probably met both Republicans and Democrats. I never asked them which party they're in, because I can tell you that when you look at a person, I'll give you one example. I've spent a week at Chamberlain High School in Tampa. Lady has never run for the school board. She doesn't know how to run a race. She's getting smarter at it. She's got a ton of money. But she worked 28 years in the Black neighborhood in the school system. She knows that school system better than virtually anybody on the board today. And I guarantee you she will bring value to that school board. I think she might be a Democrat. I'm most likely that she's a Democrat. But at the end of the day, if she was a Republican, I would still want to support somebody with that level of skills, that level of knowledge on the school board, because she is going to bring value, because she has a knowledge base. She's seen these kids up front. She's seen the administration of the regulations that are coming down. She knows that our ability to not be able to teach a full scope of history is not right. And those are the kinds of things that when you tie book banning and all the rest, we need people who will actually speak up and stand up for these school boards.
All right, and then your thoughts on Amendment 3, which is the legalizing the use of recreational marijuana.
I am for the use of legalized marijuana. I'll give you my reasons why. I work in the pharmacy space. Of the top 20 manufacturers in the world, I have 18 of them as my clients. Virtually 100% of that top 20 all have programmatics that are positioned on the synthesized chemical elements associated with marijuana. Now, when we move from that and say why, when I look at athletes, and I know a lot of athletes. You guys know my brother is Luther Campbell, Two Live Crew. There's athletes and entertainers always around. The issue, though, is when the pain and suffering from these athletes, when they actually cannot see a way out other than marijuana, I see the value. But then when I also see that value from military people whose bodies themselves have been put through the ringer, I also think that they deserve that right, because if they've been on every kind of medication, and I already talked about the Comprehensive Addiction and Recovery Act, that is pretty much focused on opioids or class 3 to class 5 medications. This should be registered as a class 3 to class 5 medication, but it should not be limited or excluded out of an ability for a person who has the ability to use that for pain management or for anxiety. They should actually be able to use that. Now, we should also, at the same time, reserve a certain percentage of the funds for research and development. I'm also, half Jamaican. I've seen what heavy use of marijuana has done to the Jamaican community, but I can tell you that it is better to have these people with some element of relief than to have them on opioids or other class 2 to class 5 medications that will only cause much more damage to them and to their bodies.
So, and from what I've been reading, that when you do the opioids, and it's supposed to be curing one thing, but it also activates something else.
I can tell you, all of the folks who started down those paths by saying this is not going to be detrimental, these are very useful drugs and a lot, every one of them who knew they were not telling the truth should then be subject to going to jail, because we have billions upon billions of dollars that were made off of these very caustic medications. A child gets an injury, breaks an ankle, and they now have 2 weeks of opioids. And then when it's now the ankle is healed, but they're not healed because the opioid has now taken over, that craving has now taken them over. And they are now having to go to worse or illegal drugs. These are the kinds of things that when you put them out, you have to be able to track and control them. And what we're looking at in the state of Florida is folks who have their controls and their mechanisms associated with it all mixed up. We can do better, and we will do better.
And do you? Somebody else can ask, because I just wanted to. Do you think that there would be chaos in the streets if an individual loses, like he say, that they're going to go after every enemy, every opponent. What is your thoughts on that?
But what?
That
Oh,
violent thinking.
I love that question. I took a sworn oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States, much like every policing force in the United States has. We have a lot of jails. We have a lot of prisoners, and we're the most powerful military in the history of the world. There is no chaos that's going to happen in the state, in the country of in this country that we cannot handle. And so the one thing that we have got to make very clear, that no man is above the law. None. And so we've had multiple court cases, and we have multiple more that this person has been found guilty or found positioned to pay very serious fines. And he can appeal them all he chooses. Guilty by your peers is guilty. And we have a number of people, a high number of people who look like me, who are in jail right now for much lesser things that they've done. This man used funds when he was actually doing things that were very improper. That may very well have been between him and his wife. He made it between him and us when he used funds to devoid us from the knowledge of who he was when he was running for election. And now to say that that's anything less than what it was, I can tell you the person that I'm running against has endorsed Donald Trump. And I can tell you I'm going to wrap that endorsement around his neck, along with the words where he says this guy's a wacko. But he's ready to endorse a wacko to keep his job or for just the bitter taste of power. It will not happen. Donald Trump will lose this race, and so will Rick Scott.
Thank you so much for that, Mr. Campbell. I'm Bill Snow. I had the good fortune of seeing you there at the Democratic Black Caucus Convention on last week, and heard you speak, and I was very, very impressed. One thing you said about the Tampa teacher veteran of 28 years is, even if she is a Republican, she is the person for the job. And that's where I think our country should be, but are not there. The best person for the job, the best candidate, the one that is looking out for the best interest of the people, all the way up to the highest levels of government and the Supreme Court. They fall in line, as opposed to in a lot of issues doing the right thing. And I have a sense of our people in leadership and our elected officials looking out for the people's best interest. But I think pharmaceutical and the lobbyists have bought most of our officials. The right has fallen in line with this ludicrous, no agenda, has gotten nothing, absolutely nothing done in the last 4 years. A bunch of infighting, as you said already. When you don't have a plan or facts to back you up, you just yell like hell and pound the table, and that's what has been happening. So I just wanted to take my hat off to you coming on our show at such a short notice, and thank you. Bid you a happy Father's Day. Your team between Dale and Shelley Hastings and all of them being able to pull this off and have you on, I am just wanting to say thank you.
Well, I can tell you, thank you for having me on. And I can tell you, I'm not the only person in the state of Florida that thinks like this. I can tell you that I have an endorsement over the last 10 days from the second largest policing organization in the state of Florida.
Nice.
The sheriffs, the International Sheriff's Association. Last election cycle, they endorsed Rick Scott. The last election cycle, they endorsed Donald Trump. They endorsed me for three simple reasons. First of all, I know them. I was raised in a union family. My father worked a union job all of my life. Secondly, I asked that they themselves look at what's of interest to them. I assured them I would not be the person who would be taking their rights. I would not be the person who would not be looking out for their insurance after they retire. This is not the people daycare for 5 years old. These are people who protect and defend us throughout the state of Florida. This is 16 counties. They supported me because I support them. Now, I thought I was not going to get that because I put out a notice in our Facebook that said we needed others to investigate the young man in your area, the Air Force young man who was killed with a gun in his home, and it was pointed downward. Now, as a person who's trained in weapons and trained to act first, the issue is there was nothing going into somebody's house that says that they should not be able to defend themselves in their home. And I then said that needed to be investigated by Air Force intelligence, naval intelligence, because we're very close by and we have a larger facility, and the federal FBI, because of the issues associated with that. We could not leave that police force there to investigate itself. I thought that was going to be a no-brainer for them. Nope, he's not our guy. But when they asked the question, I said, it is their interest, as is it our interest, that the final association of the egregious nature of that killing, we have to know what happened, and that they should be themselves the first entity to address bad policing. Now, I'm not saying that was bad policing. I wasn't there. When you look at Israel, I don't agree with 3 things from Netanyahu, but I cannot fight that war from the TV. We have to be able to let the guy who's getting shot at fight the war to defend himself. But that being said, they endorsed me because I said very clearly that what they should be doing is looking at their own interest and then looking at the people that they're voting for and then make their endorsement based on that. They bypassed the person I'm running against in the Democratic Party. They don't find her to be substantive enough on the subject. They don't see a body of work. I've worked with police and I've worked, believe me, on the intelligence world, and I've worked against them. I've marched and probably been arrested 30 times with Reverend Jackson. But I can tell you that good policing, the thing that got me to even talk to them, is because they believe in community policing. They are not just going to drive in our neighborhoods and play roughshod. They have 16 counties that do community policing. And it's not until we get the people in our neighborhoods who look like us, who are like us, who know us, to then police our neighborhoods. Because everybody doesn't have to go to jail and nobody needs to be shot, even if they're in the midst of a crime. We have to be able to shoot less and negotiate downward, de-escalate more. Those become the things that I then think I can support with a policing department like the International Sheriff's Association.
Look,
So,
go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say a couple of things. We are so excited that you came tonight, and we see that you have a large team with you. Didn't know if you wanted to introduce any of them, but more importantly, can you tell our viewing audience how they can support you, how they can get more information on you, how they can volunteer? Just as we're kind of changing over to the, we don't want you to leave without giving us that important information. How can we donate? All of those things that I know you need us to help you with.
I can tell you, we're fighting a fight all across the state of Florida, and there's not an inch of the state of Florida that we're not going to go to. So I can tell you guys, I know you haven't seen many people like me, but had the last guy running for this position come there, he might very well have been able to avoid that 10,000 person loss. For me, the area is like home. Going to Navy Flight School there, my brother running the Monsanto plant for a number of years, 25 years to be. He didn't run it for 25 years, but he was the plant manager when it was for sale. But to get to me is very easy. Stanley4Florida.com. That's Stanley4Florida.com. We obviously need your help. We're in the last throes of June, and we have to report our funding. We've got a lot of people on this call, and believe me, they work very, very hard. And I love the fact that I run them out. I bang them pretty hard, and they keep coming back. But I can tell you, they cannot come back, and they do not do this for free. When we come from Miami to Pensacola, that's a long ways. So we need your help. I hate saying it, but I put $1 million of my own monies, and I don't have $1 million to throw away, because I know the importance of this election. I'll let them introduce themselves, or I'll run through them, but I can tell you, we need your help. We need you to vote. We need you to go online at Stanley4Florida.com. We need you to register in, volunteer, put up signs, bring 10 people, bring 100 people. And you got the numbers of them individually. But Cecil Worley is a volunteer. He's a vice president at Florida Power and Light, and he is one of the people that I went to church this morning. Deborah Allen. Deborah is a person. She actually is running our work with the police department, and she's second on with our women's issue, along with my wife. Makita McClune has been invaluable. She's also doubles as the Black Caucus chairman of the two groups in Miami. She is one of them. Mamie Kistner runs our church outreach work and programs associated with that. And I can tell you, having been to church with her this morning, they literally brought me to tears, because when I was introduced to the church, I did not expect the entire leadership of the church to surround myself and my wife and to put us in their prayers for the rest and the remaining of this, to give us safety from God above. Susan Clary is a seasoned reporter in the I-4 corridor, and Susan is doing the work of probably 3 journalists, but I can tell you the people who are on this call are those who believe in our mission, believe in the cause that we're actually fighting, and they know Rick Scott. They've known him for 15 years, and they know the damage that he has done, but more so, they know the damage that he will do to our country should he be elected again. He does not want us to have Social Security. He has a plan to sunset Social Security and have it rebid every 5 years. He is a fee-for-service person, not a pay-for-performance, which is what the Affordable Care Act is. He made billions of dollars defrauding the poorest people in this country based on the fee-for-service system because he knows that the government doesn't have any way to defend against that. So the team that we have on this call are fervent. They are fighters, and we will fight to the end of this, and we will win. We will not be bullied by the Democratic or the Republican Party, and we will show up, and we will get people excited to vote in this election, because we will make history. And it won't be the history that we elected the first Black person from the state of Florida to the United States Senate. It will be the history that we remember who we are. We remember who he is, and we will replace him with a better candidate and a better legislator. So thank you for the question.
Thank you. Just one other thing. Do you think that the Supreme Court gonna hand down the immunity decision for a former president?
I do not believe that any man is above the law. I don't think that any man is above the law. When he said that he could stand on Madison Avenue and shoot somebody or whatever else, he believes that. I just don't believe that. I believe he should go to jail because he has not just shown the fact that he's been found guilty, but he's shown a disdainment for the legal system. And we cannot allow that to happen in our neighborhoods, because if we don't fear the legal system, we are doomed to chaos. We've got to do that. Personally, I think he should go to jail. I think he's deserved it. I think he should have every trial. I think he'll be found guilty in all of them. And I think that he will be required to pay. And realistically, I don't think that he will spend the rest of his life in jail, but I definitely think that he should have a few years to rethink his entire life and his entire position on life.
All right, Derek, back to you.
Well, no. So certainly, I want to say thank you for being with us and sharing with everybody. I'm glad that you took the opportunity, because I was going to ask you to do so earlier, but you did it without prompt, because I know you mentioned your brother, Mr. Luther Campbell, which I'm not sure if our demographic on the television quite will remember who that is, but I certainly know that our viewing audience will know your late brother, Mr. Late Harry Newbold. So we certainly do thank you. I also want to acknowledge, and I'll leave it to you to acknowledge the Mrs. Campbell, so everybody knows your connection to your wife there as well.
Yes, well, my Mrs. Campbell, my wife, is the Assistant Secretary of Health and Human Services, the ASA, the Assistant Secretary of Administration for the Department of Health and Human Services. So what that means in English is, on day one, in her first 10 or 12 days, she had $5.2 trillion. That's like running Microsoft and Apple at the same time, to spend on COVID relief. And you all know the results of COVID relief. But a part of that was also taking children out of cages and putting them in beds, and moving the issues associated with what was happening on the border, and then making sure that migrant farmers had vaccines and vaccinations, and that the dispensing of vaccines was consistent and contiguous throughout the country, and every other thing. How she's, in the first month, she spent $6 billion to the African American and Hispanic communities on just the advertising alone to communicate to us that this is not a Tuskegee experiment. We don't know what we don't know about the vaccine, but the things that we do know, because we've been studying them for 15 years, that this vaccine could actually save us, could save our society. And then she had to expand that to the world. And so the short answer of who she is the person that is Fauci's boss's boss, along with 99,000 other people who work for the Department of Health and Human Services. She has people in probably the 99,000, probably 50 or so countries, because the way the United States healthcare system works, we have to work that across the globe. And I can tell you, she is as humble as they come. She was the woman who was testifying on the Affordable Care Act when the system didn't work, because she built it. Her team built it. And her team built Medicare.gov and a number of others. And this was before she became a government person. But what the president recognized when he knew that he was about to take office with the worst pandemic in our lifetime, he knew he needed somebody who was already sharpened by the edges of iron, who had already been through the hottest fire that could ever be built for a person to have to testify and have to defend. And he remembered that she put that program on her back and took it across the finish line. So we are so proud of her, but we're also proud that she's Women for Campbell. And she is actually taking that on because she knows that the issues for women in the state of Florida are bar none the worst of the country. And she also knows that if we will change the trajectory of women's health, starting in the state of Florida and moving across the country. So I'm so proud of her. And 35 years of marriage, that didn't hurt either.
Yeah.
No, not at all.
Well, we certainly appreciate both you and your team for joining us this evening. We please know that whenever you would like to come back, you're more than welcome to do so. Our Voices is your home in Northwest Florida, and please don't hesitate to spend as much time with us as you'd like. Now, you are absolutely welcome to stay. I know that you're on Eastern time, not Central time, so you're more than welcome to stay with us, you and your team, if you'd like. But we are going to transition to the rest of our show, and we thank you all for joining us today. And for everybody, again, please go, as you see it, scrolling across the ticker on my box, go to stanleyforflorida.com, sign up, contribute, because this is going to be a fight, as we all know, for our democracy. And as the Democratic Black Caucus of Florida said, it will not die on our watch. So we thank you. We thank you so much for your time, and we certainly are supporting you here in the pen.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. As we again thank Mr. Campbell and his team for joining us, we are going to transition into our normal roundtable discussion, and I will start with you and Mr. McIntosh and see what you have for us to cover this week. I bet I can guess what it is, but I'll let you share it anyway.
Definitely, our Moving for Change is having its 27th annual Freedom is Not Free banquet. The theme of the banquet is Democracy or Dictatorship, with a special focus on Juneteenth and voting rights. We will be at the Pensacola Improv Event Center, 375 North Pace Boulevard, here in Pensacola, Florida. Our keynote speaker is Kyla Janae Lacey, who is a writer, spoken word artist. She's also says she's a funny girl, featured on and right about now BuzzFeed, Harper Bazaar, Slate Magazine, The Tamarind Hall Show, last week tonight with John Oliver of the New York Times, The Atlantic, Fox News, and her resume includes hundreds of college visits and speeches, and is a viral sensation on social media. And that is Friday, the 21st, which is coming up. And the banquet, the doors open at 5, our social hour, then the banquet starts at 6. And of course, we advocate organization and a civil rights organization who has been fighting for social justice and civil rights for over 27 years. They can contact myself at 850-206-3776. Rodney Jones, 850-293-2756. Belinda Donaldson at 850-549-6144. Or just call the office at 850-432-4411. Our tickets are $50. We keep them that way so the average person can afford it and can come to the banquet each and every year. So we hope to see everyone there. And that's June the 21st, which is this coming weekend, as a matter of fact. So hopefully everybody will turn out and become a supporter and become members of the organization as well.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. And we will go on to Miss Cheryl Mulrain. Do we have something that you would like to share? Any news, anything that you think is going to be good for the community to know and keep in the back of their mind, or in the forefront of their mind, as I should say?
Okay. Can I mention my new position?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I had just taken on the position of campaign manager for Haley Morissette, who is running for Florida House District 2. So I'm really excited about that and the things that we have planned to reach out to the community over these next few months.
Good. And for those of you all who don't know, as Haley, she described herself, and I was like, oh, that's a good narrative. I like that. The daughter of Pensacola. If you haven't seen her, certainly you can see her from the Pensacola's top 100 most influential. I believe she was number 37 on that list. Member of lead organizer for Dream Defenders, and a host of other things. Just awarded the Social Worker of the Year for the entire state of Florida. And she's a brilliant young woman who is running for Florida State House District 2 here in Escambia and parts of Santa Rosa County. So congratulations on that. We know that the campaign is in good hands, as we should say. So thank you for that. Mr. Bill Snow, what do you have for us today?
Well, I would like to, first of all, congratulate Ms. Mulrain on her new campaign position. Haley would do well. You guys would do well. I think it's kind of easy when you have such a terrific candidate. But hats off to that. I also want to say that we got Juneteenth on Wednesday, a federal holiday. So looking forward to that day off and the nation recognizing Juneteenth nationally. Looking so forward to Friday night. We had Kylie Janae on our show here maybe 5 years ago. And I was impressed then. I knew she would go on to do great things, but I'm looking so forward to meeting her in person at our annual Movement for Change banquet. Now, I bought my ticket on the Cash App. Had to get it. So if you have not gotten your ticket, last year there was a lot of panic at the last minute, people trying to buy tickets. I tried to reach out to Miss Carol, and she was trying to find me some, but there was just nothing out there. So get your ticket. Don't wait for Wednesday, Thursday, because the banquet last year was really, really nice artwork. I look at my artwork right now. I got a nice piece of artwork, maybe 11 by 14 that I chose. But when I chose it, Miss Carol told me, Bill, I'm gonna make you a special piece of artwork. What do you want? And I gave her an idea, and man, I got a huge piece of artwork from that deal. So I'm just looking forward. There's always something exciting. Our speaker last year was dynamic, but Kylie, I promise you, this will be a win-win. So if you have not gotten your tickets, reach out to Jerry, Brother Rodney, or go by the office located there on North Davis Highway. Get your ticket. It should be a really, really great event.
Great. All righty. Mr. Vernon, what do you have for us today?
Believe it or not, I don't have anything today. Just gonna join in on the dialogue.
Okay, all righty. I don't know. I want to say for the first time probably in a while, but I'm going to venture to say she may not have anything, but she usually has a DBCF update, but we're going to cover that next. So, Jill, do you have anything that you want to share with the viewing audience?
That is not DBCF because you want to do that next? Is that what you're saying?
That is correct.
Absolutely, I do. I always have something to say. Happy Father's Day, everybody. And so glad that you guys decided to let us enjoy part of your day this evening, and those that are watching. I also want to share that in Crestview on June 19th, that they will also have their Juneteenth celebration. It is 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. It's located at 1446 Commerce Drive, and they actually do something a little bit different. They do a walkthrough, so the history of how we got to Juneteenth, and they do it at 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and 5 o'clock. And it's actually very, very good. And it's amazing because they get students involved and older people involved. And it just is a really good understanding of what does it really mean? Why do we celebrate it? And what is it all about? So I just invite all of you as you're going to your different locations that even if you're in Pensacola, you can come all the way over to Crestview and then stop in Santa Rosa and then go back to Pensacola. Or if we're here, we can start in Crestview and move our way through. But I would encourage everybody to go through the different counties. Almost all of the counties are having something between Saturday. Santa Rosa had something, but they have another program all the way through probably Saturday with the final kickoff with Movement for Change's fabulousness that we don't need to say anything about because Bill sold that so well. Everybody go get your tickets. So I just want to say thank you so much. And that's all I have for now.
I'm surprised, Jill, you didn't empty your mind from all that work you had us.
He told me to wait to talk about the Black Caucus stuff. So I'm giving y'all what I have now.
Okay. Go back to you, Derek.
Well, I will just share, as I continue to share, starting on June 29th for every Saturday, except for one, through the election, the Escambia Democratic Party will be canvassing on behalf of the candidates and to make sure that everybody is registered to vote and re-enrolled in vote by mail. So if you are interested, I get requests all the time to tell people that people ask me, hey, let us know how we can be involved, or I want to knock on doors with you. Is it time to knock on doors? It's now time to knock on doors. So I'm telling you that now. If you are interested in doing so, please give us a call at the Escambia Democratic headquarters at 850-407-7997. We will be doing so every Saturday, starting on the 29th in the evening from 4 to 6. So we're not putting anybody in the blistering heat, sweating to death, profusely walking around town. But we will be taking every different precincts throughout Escambia County. If you're interested and you want to knock on some doors, this is that opportunity to do so. If you can't knock on doors, we have phone banks that you are able to call people to remind them to get out to vote, to re-enroll and vote by mail. We'll have GOTV activities as well as postcarding activities. So there is something that everybody can do, irrespective of their age, their ability. We have something that's for everybody to do. And so I will tell you, this is that time to get involved. So please give us a call at 850-407-7997 if you are interested in doing any of those things. I am also going to start plugging as so everybody can keep it on their calendars. On Saturday, July the 13th, Equal Ground, in conjunction with the National Coalition for 100 Black Women, Movement for Change, several of our other partners, I believe Alpha Kappa Alpha, Equal Ground, and a lot of the other folks will be doing a legislative session debrief, which is going to take place in Santa Rosa County. If you joined us last year, you may remember we were at Hearst Chapel here in Pensacola. But as a panhandle, we believe in cooperative work ethic. And so we are going to be rotating. So people in Okaloosa, Walton, and Escambia counties will be making the drive over to Milton. If you were with us last year and you know Equal Ground, you know that is absolutely an event you do not want to miss. It is very educational, informative, and more importantly, it's free. All you need to do is just show up. And again, that's going to be on Saturday, July the 13th. And we'll start plugging and you'll see information go on and go out for that. And we will then transition into our strategic election programming initiative, where we'll cover in-depth things like the amendments, get you educated on what you're voting on, introduce you to some of our candidates, and we'll talk about everything politics in a more in-depth fashion. So get ready to spend the morning and a little bit of your afternoon with us in Milton. So I will share that with us for you guys. And that's all that I have. And as you know, we were not with you guys last week. You were fortunate enough to see one of our previously aired episodes, but we were all, I believe everybody, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or had the ability and were privileged enough to attend the Democratic Black Caucus of Florida's 41st annual conference and gala, which was in themed democracy. I see you making fun of me. Which was themed democracy will not die on our watch. And I'm going to start it with Jill, and then I want to just get everybody's thoughts about the conference and kind of, I don't want to say rub everybody's nose on what they missed, but just share with them what they missed, because I do believe you all missed out on some good stuff this weekend. So I'll start with Jill as the coordinator of all things DBCF conference and gala.
Well, if you don't mind, it's the conference and gala. And I would like to let everybody else share, and then I'll kind of finalize it, because I think it means a lot more if it comes from you guys first, and then I can kind of sum it all up. So whoever wants to go first, you were all there. You were all played a very intricate role. So go ahead, Bill's on fire. So let's go.
I don't get out much, but boy, look at here. My first thoughts were, man, do I owe Jill an apology. So I'm going to take this opportunity, Jill. I had no idea, man, of all that you were doing, and for me to not be able to surf and buy tickets and reserve a room and all of what you did for me, man. When I was taken aback by my first conference, and to have been chosen to be a panelist. Christina, Cheryl, Jill, you all were dressed to the T, to the nine on gala night, meeting candidates and issues of the day, and Justin J. Pearson. I mean, the gala was just so nice, man. And the theme, everybody spoke so well. The panels were really good. Vernon even hit a home run on his panel. I mean, it was just amazing. I am looking so forward to the 42nd annual conference. It was just, the food was just that. Everything was so nice, man. And I was glad to have been able to be a part of it. Took my time driving there, took my time driving back, but just to be able to socialize with you guys, the ones that bring this show to the multitudes, be it on TV or on the internet. To having met Mr. Campbell and then have him on our show at such a short notice. I mean, we met some really good candidates, and I saw where this is the first time in some 20 years of the Republicans dominating here in Florida that we have Black candidates in all the positions. So it's just an exciting time in Florida. Florida is definitely purple right now, and I do believe we can flip this thing and get it back blue. But I'm just I've told everybody that would listen, man, how nice the conference was, man, and oh my God, that's just it. I can go on and on, man. I relish in the nice, boy. This thing was put together, yo. This bad boy, you can tell its quality, the ink, the color of it, the bios, everything is just like Jill. Your daughter sang Justin happy. Me too. But man, she set the tone. She really did that. So just hats off to you for putting it together. Like I told you in the text, I tried to compliment Christina on how nice everything was every time I saw her, and she was careful to deflect. This is all Jill. But when we walked into that gala room that night with the backdrop and the silver and the everything, the tables, man. And did I say the food? Okay, I'll stop right there. But it was great. We had a great time, guys.
Good. Mr. Vernon, what did you have?
You're on mute, Vern.
We can hear you.
Yeah, I thank Jill for inviting me. It was a nice time. I really enjoyed the conference itself, and to get to meet and greet everybody, and just to interact with the folks in the Democratic Party, and particularly the Black Democratic Party, so we can meet some of the movers and shakers of the around the state. And not only that, we got a chance to meet other folks. You know, folks like when we was on the panel, some of the other folks that was in the media areas that I hadn't met, but some of them I had met, but some of them I have not met. But it's a good thing to interact with them as well. So it was well done, well put together. I thank y'all for making me a part of it, and so I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Me?
Go ahead.
Okay. I just want to thank you guys for inviting me out. That was my first conference, and I have to say I was blown away. Jill, you are a rock star. What you were able to put together, and I know you have a team, but you were amazing in just the coordination of everything that went on that entire weekend. It was great. The networking with the people on the panel, and I'm especially proud of how well represented Northwest Florida was. Because everyone here was at that convention or conference, and most of us sat on a panel. I enjoyed the networking with the other panelists there, and I met a lot of great people that attended the conference. It was just amazing. I just thank you all for inviting me, and I'm looking forward to more of that. And I do have to say, sometimes with everything on the news, we get a little jaded and a little discouraged. going to that conference and hearing those speeches gave me a newfound energy that I had been waiting to experience. Listening to Justin and just the energy and the fire that was existed within that space. I came back to Pensacola ready to be about the work of not letting democracy die on my watch. So I thank you guys for that.
I want to say it was awesome. Really, it was just awesome. And even though I have to commend Jill for all of that hard work, I don't know how she did it from afar. You know, she wasn't like down there doing it; she was doing it from afar, and it was so great to see the work that was put in to make sure this thing take off like it did, and to be that successful. Only thing I can say, the place where we was at, the Rosamond, am I saying that right? It was really, really nice. It was A1. Jason Pierce from the Tennessee Three, if people don't know, that's who we are talking about. From Tennessee Three that was expelled from the House in Tennessee, but who got reelected again and speaking truth to power and with power. He he was speaking with power on both occasions that we saw him, and it was awesome. All the panels was great. I want to commend all our group for being on Jill, allowing us to be on the panelists, because it was really great. You know, just to be able to address a lot of issues that we thought should be addressed, and to address the issues of the black media not being taken for granted. We talked about that. We wanted to make sure that everybody knew that we exist, that didn't know we exist down there. And we did make a lot of contacts with people that's running for office down there, and that will be coming on the show from time to time, as Mr. Campbell did tonight, who is running for U.S. Senate, which is a powerful position if he can, if we're gonna say when he wins, that's going to be a powerful position to be in, because especially here in the state of Florida. As you know, like he said, the one that's there now have defrauded this state out of billions of dollars, and then go on to become governor and then senator. Is and this is a trend, and we are happy about the theme. Democracy will not die on our watch, and that is powerful in itself. And I'm happy that people are making sure that people know exactly what is taking place, and we cannot underestimate when we have no guardrails to protect us against people that's, you can't vote as a felon, but you can run for president with 34 felons and a rape charge. And you got to pay $83 million for that rape charge. So it behooves us to continue to do things like that, to be involved and be engaged, and not detached spectators sitting on the sidelines of life. We have to be involved. And again, I want to thank Jill for all of the effort and the work that she put in. I knew she was tired and exhausted. She had to be. And we was up 3 o'clock in the morning working. 3 o'clock in the morning. That was a lot of work too, but it was great. And I'm so happy that it was successful. So, Derek.
Yeah, no, well, so I will say that the conference was probably the best that I've been to over the past 3 years that I've been. It was a lot of work, but I think for me, what I appreciated is everybody, to your point that was raised earlier, everybody's representation from Northwest Florida, because it's usually from Escambia County, just two of us, maybe three, but just two. And to see like that go up, that fold three times that number was absolutely exciting. It may not sound to those who are watching like a lot, but it's a lot for us, from that standpoint. I appreciate Mr. McIntosh and Cheryl and everybody else for like staying up with us. I know Mr. McIntosh won't say, but we had him up until like 4 o'clock in the morning doing stuff. And I know he was like, is y'all for real gonna go to bed? It's not like we were out partying or hanging out. We were trying to break down, clean up, set up for the next day and the last days of the conference, and break down from the gala. Because as some of you may think, you go to the gala and then you leave, but no, we got to actually break down and take all the decorations and move the rooms from the panel discussions and do all that stuff. So that takes work. So he hung in there with us. I know he was like, "Oh, we got to go to another room. It's 3 o'clock." But he was a trooper, and Cheryl was pitching in, as we got ready to get stuff. For first-time attendees, I don't expect first-time attendees to actually work. I expect them to just go and participate and take out what they will. But they rolled up the sleeves, and I was like, hey, we appreciate you. I know it's probably more than what they bargained for. And I know Cheryl, we're missing Christina, but I know Cheryl got a chance to ride all around the entire state of Florida with Christina trying to get there. So I'm sure she saw all of everything that, the state of Florida could possibly offer while they were there. So I'm just saying, and on a personal note, my younger brother, Trevor, some of you all got a chance to meet because you were there, is probably what I would consider to be unengaged in terms of our political process. Like, if you tell them, like, okay, go vote, he's like, yeah, I hear you, or I voted, I go vote. But sitting through this panel or having a conversation like this for this length of time is not something that I typically would have expected from him. But he had the opportunity to attend the conference, and as an older brother, I will say I was quite impressed with his ability to handle himself on a panel. We threw him in, and he was able to handle himself. He was great. And more importantly, I think for me, my takeaway from his participation is that he walked away ready to engage. And to me, if nothing else, that was the point, for attendees to recharge, but for a first time, or people who are not necessarily in it on an everyday basis, to walk away with a feeling of, okay, what can I do now? He talked about wanting to talk to equal ground and getting involved, and it was almost like a complete 180 from where he went down, initially. So for me, that was touching, and I was just proud of him, as I am of everybody else on the panel, but we're all engaged. So, to see that, I was excited, I'm proud, and I have to thank Jill and the Democratic Black Caucus for doing that, so that's all that I have.
Just remember, Derek, even if he doesn't stay engaged, that this is a calling, man. And for those that lend themselves to us when called on, as he did great. I've got people in my family, man, that I wish so much would get the vigor that I have, but it's a calling and I've accepted it, man. So everybody just isn't, but this is what we do, man. We were tall for this. So I'm sorry. Go ahead, Miss Jill.
So I did absolutely have a team. The vision started back. Jerry's correct, so I'm going to try to walk us through all of this. The vision started back in December, and I'm writing on a piece of paper, and I'm like, Derek, what do you think about we do this? And then we do this. And he's like, what? Why are you talking about this now? Because I'm trying to put together, how can we put all of this together and make sure that the end result is exactly what he just said, that those of us that are in the fight or seasoned and in the fight, that we are reinvigorated and ready to go out and fight and do everything that we have to do to make sure that we win in elections and that we get Biden elected and that we have local elected officials that support ideas and that we hold them accountable. But then there was the side that how do we reach? We keep talking about the young people and who could we get and how could we make sure that we change the narrative that's on TikTok and give them truth. And so that's when all of this kind of birthed together. And I do spend a lot of time trying to make sure everything works. And then I brought in a team, and I don't think the team was ready for what we did this year. This year, I was like, we need to raise money. We need to do this. We need to do this. We need to do this. However, I did give everybody something that they are either really well skilled at or that they like to do. I gave almost everybody a week off before we worked till I think 1:30 was the earliest we went to bed. Cheryl did jump right in once you got through with, as Derek said, your trip around Florida. Once you guys got there, you and Christina went to bed at 1:30. Derek's looking like that. We went to bed. We didn't go to bed, but the team went to bed at 1:30 on Thursday.
I don't remember going to bed at 1:30.
But the team was allowed to go to bed at 1:30. I called out. I was like, okay, y'all go to sleep. I don't want to see you till 10:30 in the morning. I even went to sleep it. But then we went right back at it. It takes a lot to put that on. We do all the decorations, all of that, to make sure that you have an event. To me, I want everything fabulous. They'll tell you I'm meticulous. I want everything fabulous. I want you to have the experience of a lifetime. The red carpet and the VIP, none of you mentioned it. Like, we had to go find the red carpet, and they were like, you really want red carpet? I really want red carpet. I wanted you guys to walk into a VIP with a red carpet and extensions. And then we did food for the first time, which we normally don't do. I'm sure I'll, on the backside, get a little hit on the, Jill, why are you spending all this money? But it needed to be exactly what it needed to be. It would not have been possible without all of you. Like, I know that there's a lot of work that goes into it, and I'm dedicated to do that. I'm required in my own space to do that, but that doesn't require each of you to do that, and you did it anyway. Christina did her part. Cheryl, you absolutely jumped right in. She was like, let me help. Jill, sit down. Let me help. Let me do this. Anytime we needed her, she was there. Jerry, you got to see a whole nother side of Derek, didn't you? Tell them. Anyway, he stayed up with us. I think we hit him with a couple of pillows. I mean, we tried to make it as much fun as we possibly could to be up till 3:30 in the morning. To Bill and Vernon. Vernon, glad you brought your family. Glad you were part of that media. I heard what you said. And I didn't get to see all of it. I did this year try really hard to make sure the entire team, except for Elaine, I, and Jenna, the entire team got to experience the entire event. Elaine, I, and Jenna worked registration for the most part. So we didn't, but Vernon, I heard that you knocked it out the park and you said exactly what we wanted them to hear. People now know, they had told me they didn't know you. So now they know you. You've got candidates reaching out to you and Bill. Bill, great job, great energy. Just really an exciting time for this team alone. For everybody else, absolutely. But for this team to see us all in a space where we're working together, where we're highlighted, where we are engaged and energized. And Justin J. Pearson, Representative Justin J. Pearson, was amazing. His fiance was amazing. He did Friday night. He didn't even know he was doing Friday night. And he did Friday night, went upstairs for 5 minutes, came down, knocked that out the park. Then he did his VIP reception and knocked that out the park. And then he just, people were crying. Like, it was so intense that there were people in the room with tears running down their face. Our hearts were pierced. It just was an amazing time. And I want to read, because for the first time ever, we've done these. Of course, this is our 41st annual conference and gala. And we have done this. I've done them for the last 10 years. So I've been involved and engaged in 10 years in being the program logistics director. But this is the first time that we've gotten this kind of feedback. Politico said this: the Biden campaign in recent weeks has tried to step up its outreach to Black voters, one of the most important constituents to the president's reelection. For Florida, the kickoff for engaging an estimated 2.6 million eligible Black voters happened this weekend at the Democratic Black Caucus of Florida's conference and gala in Orlando. They had Representative Justin J. Pearson. Then they go through what he was. And it says, this year's theme was democracy will not die on our watch. As the group revved up, over 250 attendees that included party leaders and advocates to elect Democrats and pass a ballot measure to ensure abortion rights. Representative Troy Carter, the only Democrat in Louisiana's 6-member congressional delegation, addressed conference attendees during a Sunday breakfast. I realized that I was preaching to the choir because these are leaders that are out there every day in local communities, is what he said. So for Politico to pick this up and to say that we are now spearheading the Black Democratic fire that is about to take place, to me, that's amazing. We've been in Politico, and usually it's here and there, a little bit of something or something else going on, but never to this level. And again, it's because of everybody who put in so much work. And a conference like that doesn't happen overnight, but it takes people attending. And so for those people who missed it, this is what I would say to you: shame on you. Shame on you. Some people purposely didn't come. They wanted to prove a point. I don't even know what it was. I can't even experience what they were thinking in a time where 2024 is here and now. We have a primary in August. We have an election in November, and everything is on the line. And we give you a lineup that they had no idea, but we tried to hit every single issue: Black male issues, female issues. We have panels with everyday people, with representatives, senators, and you chose to sit at home because of your own selfish needs, desires, issues, concerns. And all I can say is that the fire that we all have, and the fire that the people left with that place with, that if you would have engaged, then we would assure a win in 2024. And we wouldn't have to work half as hard as we're going to have to work, because we've got to take that energy and try to give you what you could have got for free through us. So to all of you, truly thank you. I know you guys all say it's me, and it definitely is my vision and my process, but you guys were willing vessels. And so to me, when God calls, and not that I'm God, but when God calls and he makes it happen, and there are people that are willing vessels to do the work, to put up with and like I said, I know, Cheryl, you can say it. Jerry, you probably saw a little bit of it. Derek says it every year. I am meticulous. No, I want this right here on this spot. I'm writing to look like this. I want everything phenomenal, because when you walk in that place, I want you to feel like you're appreciated. Like they didn't just throw this together. They put this together specifically for me. To your napkins that had your nice little, hey, welcome. We're so glad you're here. You are somebody. You mean something. To the little books. All of that is just a part of making sure that you knew that for the Democratic Black Caucus, for the 41st annual conference and gala, that we love you, that we know you're fighting for us. We know that you're the hard workers. We know that some of you weren't engaged. Like Derek said, his brother was amazing. They think they're introverts. I don't believe that. I absolutely am throwing that out the window. But he was engaged, and he wrote an awesome quote. Jenna, we called Jenna, and we were like, Jenna, did you like it? And she's engaged because her mom's engaged. She did absolutely kill the song, though. I have to say that. I know she's my baby, but it was like, oh my gosh, it was her and Justin just drew on each other.
She killed it.
But when we called her, she was like, we the people, we the people, we the people. That's how he left us. And she remembered that. She was like, Mom, I want to go to church. I'm going to tell my friends the truth. I'm going to make sure that they know what we see on TikTok and all of that is not true. We got the truth, and I need to share it. So more people should have been there, but the ones that were there were meant to be there. And I'm just blessed, honored. I thank all of you, to Christina, who I know is not here, Absolutely. Thank you. My entire team, there's 12 of us, and they worked hard to make sure that this was exactly what it needed to be. And so I just say thank you. And I think I'll leave it at that. I
Hey,
know that they're resting. Now I have to do the hard part. So now I'm chasing all the other stuff and doing my real job, which is the treasurer's job. But they are on sabbatical. We'll meet in about a week. We'll probably even pull you in, Cheryl, Jerry, if you like, and do a debrief. Go
hey,
ahead, Bill.
hey, while you're right there, I want to touch on that. We the people, Justin J. Pearson saying those are three of the blackest words ever written. But if you get a chance, if you were not there, go to WBQP and watch Justin's segment, man, that gala speech, man. It was awesome. It was awesome.
It really was. That guy he
He
He take
powerful.
you back. Yeah, he take you back for a little guy.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know, we got a chance to take pictures with him and everything else. He was just a real nice. It was just the atmosphere there was so nice, and that's what made it so great because Jill made it great, but the atmosphere was great because of the way she set it up.
Right.
And
And
we know.
I have to say thank you. One more thing on the way out. We put all this together, and I don't know how we even got there, to be honest. I had my car full there, and then we went to the storage unit and got another car full. And then I think then we went to Sam's, got the car full again. But when we left, it took my car, Jerry's car, Christina's car, and then Russell Drake came in and helped us just so we could get the stuff back to the storage unit. Cheryl helped. I mean, we were just all there, just like, what did we have to do? So it was absolutely a group effort, but without all of those extra cars, you see it all. But like Derek said, I don't know that you understand what all the behind the scenes is. So for Jerry, I know you didn't get home till probably 10 o'clock that night. Cheryl, Christina, I know you didn't get home till about 10 o'clock. And Derek, I know you didn't get home till 10 o'clock because I didn't get home till then, just because we had to put all that stuff in storage. It's a little bit out of the way, and then drive back 6, 7, 8 hours. So thank you again so much.
And we thought we was getting a ticket, then we did.
Yeah, we did. We were ready to go, and then that's how the Lord worked, right? We were all booking, and we're like, "Oh Lord, He done got us," and there's nothing that we can do. It's a wrap. And He came out right as we were passing, right? Like, and I'm like, "Oh, well, we gonna go. It's a wrap." I had nothing to do but to go on and pull on over. And he said, "No, I'm gonna go on up the road a little bit." We thought he was pulling the person over in front of us. The man pulled over, and he said, "Nope, not you." And so he kept going. So as the man pulled over in his truck, we just said, "Thank you for your sacrifice and your service, and we gonna keep on moving down this road because we got places to go." It was late, So, and yeah, it was just a great time. So yes, and if you have not gotten a chance, go to YouTube's WBQP and look at I think it's called Gala 2, DBCF Gala 2 is the title of it. And you can see Representative Justin J. Pearson's dynamic speech.
Dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that brother is awesome.
Yes, that was awesome, man.
Yeah. And we are got about 5 minutes left, so there's not really much to go into. But if they're, I guess I'll share this with the young folks, or particularly our young Black males who are don't want to be engaged, or they're like, this stuff doesn't affect us. If you are paying attention, the the U.S. legislator, the Congress, just signed into law, passed a law that men 18 to 26 are now going to be automatically enrolled in the draft. So while we're not wanting to sit or not really caring about it, they're going to make you care about it because there's a lot going on. And if you're 18 to 26 draft ready, I would hate for you to unexpectedly get a call. So this is the time that you want to pay attention. If you don't like that, the possibility of having to go back into war, I thought they did away with, what is it, selective service? I think is what it was called in the past, but it's now back alive and in action. So there's something to hang your hat on. You know, you're not liking the direction. It's time to get out and go vote. You know, this is, and that don't, and unlike what the news tells you, don't think Biden, that's not a Biden thing. That is a Republican-led Congress initiative that they reactivated the selective service. So, you know, something to keep up with.
I'm hoping that they're not trying to get it ready for a civil war.
I'll tell you. It could be a possibility. Reason they're doing it. Yeah. I'm going to do these books there. This here is Dr. Cornel West. I know a lot of people are ticked off at him, but this book was written in 2004 called Democracy Matters. And it's something that we need to read. He was eloquent back then in his writing. He still is. He just kind of got off the beaten trail when President Obama won. I don't know why him and Tavis Smiley took it so personal, or made it so personal rather. But it is a good book. Also, Cory Booker, United. It's a good book that he has written too. So glad that and this year's Paul Cuffey. He was abolitionist, and it's a great book. I know it might be hard to see because of this cover, but it's a great book that talked about what he did back in the early days and the black man in the promise of America. This is a good book as well. So those are some books that we recommend that you look at, read rather, and find out some of the things about ourselves. And also, I want to reiterate again that Move for Change is having its 27th annual Freedom is Not Free banquet, and the theme is democracy or dictatorship, with a special focus on Juneteenth and voting rights. It's going to be at the Pensacola Improv Center, 375 North Pace Boulevard. Our keynote speaker is Kyla Janae Lacey, who is a spoken word artist, and she has been featured on many magazines and newspaper and appearances on like the show Tamron Hall, John Oliver, as we said, the New York Times, Fox News, and she's spoken at many colleges, and she is really, really great, and definitely want people to hear her. And one of her poems, one teacher got fired for talking about and playing her poem, and I believe it was in Tennessee. So hopefully people come out of here. But she got a plethora of poems, and because I went to hear her a few times. She's really, really great. And she's also my niece, so I'm not biased at all. Derek.
Okay, well, Mr. McIntosh, I think on that note, I know I need to get you to hold 10 tickets for us, and I'll get that, circle back with you on that one. But certainly on behalf of our co-hosts, our executive producer, Mr. McIntosh, I want to say thank you for joining us today. We want to thank Mr. Stanley Campbell for joining us along with his campaign staff. For more information on his campaign, go to www.stanleyforflorida.com and check him out. We say thank you. We will see you next week, same time, same channel, and have a great night, everyone. And we'll talk to you soon.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.